Those in the federal government using your money to bribe the states to do what they want, well, that's nothing new. But this little piece of tyranny takes it a step farther. In an effort to protect you from this nasty COVID-19 virus, the federal government wants to pay states to spy on you. And we'll discuss that next on the Constitution Study.
There's one thing you have to know wherever you make your stand. Came from a long through line of everyday Americans.
Hello there, everyday Americans. Paul Engel here once again with the Constitution Study, where we read and study the Constitution and we teach the rising generation to be free. I'm glad you could join me. As always, please head to that website, constitutionstudy.com. Check out everything that I'm working on. You can comment, you can make suggestions, you can ask questions, you can find all my material, you can share my material. Please, I love when people share the material. I love to hear what you think. I love to get your ideas on other topics I should cover. If you want to support the work that I'm doing, so much the better. I've got some new products that I'm hoping going to make available soon on the website. So, sign up for the newsletter. You want to be one of the first to know what's going on? That's the place to do it. Newsletter, there's a sign up for the newsletter button. You can even check the box and have these videos, all my material delivered to your inbox when they're released, all without having to worry about some Facebook or YouTube algorithm. So consider that. If you can help, great. If you can help by sharing, I love that. That's wonderful. So with that, let's talk about this particular piece of sunshine. Called the COVID-19 Testing, Reaching, and Contacting Everyone, or TRACE Act, H.R. 6666 is nothing less than an attempt by those we hire to be our servants in Washington, D.C. to bribe the states to spy on their citizens. From the legislation, quote, in general, the Secretary of Health and Human Services, acting through the Director of the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, may reward grants to eligible entities to conduct diagnostic testing for COVID-19, to trace and monitor the contacts of infected individuals, and to support the quarantine of such contacts. Now, some of you may be thinking that, well, referring to federal grants to the states as bribery, that may be a little bit over the top. Well, let's take a look at the definition of bribery. Quote, the act or practice of giving or taking rewards for corrupt practices, the act of paying or receiving a reward for a false judgment or testimony, or for the performance of that which is known to be illegal or unjust. It is applied both to him who gives and to him who receives the compensation, but appropriately to the giver. So if the federal government gives money to the states as a reward for doing something known to be illegal or unjust, then they and the states that accept the money are guilty of bribery. So is the purpose of the COVID-19 Testing, Reaching, and Contacting Everyone Act illegal or unjust? Well, Article 1, Section 8, Clause 1 of the Constitution reads, the Congress shall have the power to lay and collect taxes, duties, imposts, and excises, to pay the debts and provide for the common defense and general welfare of the United States. I suppose the case could be made that COVID-19 testing is for the general welfare of the Union, but it's a pretty weak case. After all, the vast majority of the states in the Union have few COVID-19 patients. Based on the Johns Hopkins map of confirmed U.S. cases, the vast majority of cases are in only 8 to 10 states. Back to H.R. 6666. Quote, priority. In selecting grant recipients under this section, the Secretary shall give priority to applicants proposing to conduct activities funded under this section in hotspots and medically underserved communities. And if the Secretary of Health and Human Services decides to define hotspots based on confirmed cases by population, then most of the $100 billion will go to New York City and the surrounding area. So that could be an unjust use of funds, but what about illegal? If you read all of Section 2A, you will see that this money isn't just for testing. It is also to trace and monitor the contacts of infected individuals and to support the quarantine of such contacts. Is it illegal to trace and monitor people? Well, does anybody remember the Fourth Amendment? Quote, the right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated. How secure are you in your person if the government can surveil you without your knowledge and without a warrant? And how does a state define contact? Do I have to touch someone or only be within 6 feet of them? What if I enter the same establishment as an infected individual? Does it have to be within a few minutes, 5 minutes, an hour, 24 hours, a week? What if my daughter enters a convenience store 24 hours after an infected person? Since she lives with my wife and I, are we now considered infected individuals and all of our contacts can now be tracked and spied on? And the big, nasty question few people seem to be asking, if the government can spy on you for COVID-19, why not for some other emergency? What if your neighbor buys something with cash that makes some government official suspicious? Can you be tracked because you had contact with them? What if some distant relative is arrested for a drug crime? Can you be surveilled as a contact? Or what if you cross paths with an illegal alien? Can ICE now track your movements? You see, it's bad enough when companies we share our data with give it over to the government willy-nilly through the misguided third-party doctrine. You can see my article, Carpenter versus United States, for more on that. But H.R. 6666 authorizes bribes for states to test and trace individuals through mobile health units. And H.R. 6666 never defines a mobile health unit. Will there be vehicles driving the streets tracing and tracking Americans? Will they use drones? Think of all the possible things they could do with mobile health units and how they can be used to invade your privacy and violate your right to be secure in your person. This is a great example of not letting a crisis go to waste. As William Pitt the Younger said, necessity is the plea for every infringement of human freedom. It is the argument of tyrants. It is the creed of slaves. Just like the Patriot Act, this Trace Act is another attempt by those we hire to be our representatives to circumvent the law and spy on us. They are using the excuse of the necessity of tracking those with COVID-19 to prevent its spread as an excuse to spy on us. Today it's COVID-19. Who knows what it'll be tomorrow? The question I have for the American people is, are you citizens or are you slaves? The Trace Act is just the latest in a long line of arguments proving that many of those we sent to Washington, D.C. to be our representatives are tyrants. While that might not have been their intention, it has become the de facto state of those who work in our federal government, and in many of our state governments as well. But will we use necessity as our creed, our reason for subjecting ourselves to slavery? Or will we stand up and take control of those we have hired to work as our agents? From the Declaration of Independence, prudence indeed will dictate that governments long established should not be changed for light and transient causes. And accordingly, all experience has shown that mankind are more disposed to suffer, while evils are sufferable, than to right themselves by abolishing the forms to which they are accustomed. When will Americans say enough of this tyranny? When will the evils of our elected officials no longer be sufferable? When the American people finally decide to right themselves, will there be anything left of the rights and liberties which we once knew? I've heard a lot of people talk about the Trace Act or H.R. 6666 as implementing contact tracing. It doesn't. It's bribing the states to do it. Does that make it any more legal? No. But how long are the American people going to allow our employees, our hirelings, our agents to act in such illegal, corrupt manner? When will we say enough is enough? When will the constant repeated tyrannies be too much? When will we stand up and say, no, we set the rules? I'm not talking about violence. I'm not even talking about civil disobedience. When will we once again apply the law the way we have written it? The Constitution starts out with we the people. Well, it's about time we the people start holding our elected officials accountable. You can help by taking this message and others from the Constitution Study website and sharing them with others. Show them the tyranny, the slavery they're living in. Most of them probably don't know. If you've never seen a sunrise, you have no idea how beautiful it is. If you've never walked in an open field in fresh air, if you've never been out in the country at night and seen the stars, you have no idea what it looks like. But once you're shown that, nothing else compares. It's time we help show the American people what true liberty really is. What living as a free people is like, to once again act as a land of the free and the home of the brave. And that starts with you, and that starts with me, and it starts hopefully with sharing this information, helping other people to read and study the Constitution, learn what our rights are, learn how to defend and assert them, and hopefully you found it of value that you come back, and I'll see you again the next time on the Constitution Study.
There's one thing you have to know wherever you make your stand. Came from